In focus. Click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, support channel by becoming a member or a copy of the various other links, or join the Telegram, which is a very interesting format. Doug Ernst and Tim Lim have a website where they're selling their stuff on their website, and there's kind of this issue. There are people talking about it on Twitter of the concept of just selling things directly on a website versus crowdfunding. Yeah, websites are great. The one thing I did want to say is that the thing with crowdfunding, and though I don't like the idea of like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, because obviously they're gatekeepers, is that it creates a sense of excitement over time. There's even if things go in demand, well, there's an opening to it, and presumably there's a closing to it. It gives you something, because it's kind of like Comicsgate is set up in a certain format where you have an opening, you go on different shows, and the biggest by far is going to be Ethan's. But then there's also like John Malin and Cecil, and there's a bunch of other people at Bancroft. There's the Australian contingent, which is funny because the Australians are more based than much less politically correct than the Americans. And then there's just people all over Comicsgate where you make the rounds. And Cecil and Malin and all these other people are definitely putting in, like Cecil does interviews with comic creators that are a very nice thing for him to do. So does Malin, and a bunch of other people too are helping to grow this. And obviously, the thing is, if you get on Ethan's, it's such a huge platform that you're going to have such a good start to your comic. So that is the idea behind, like, kind of following the format of CG, of going on other people's shows, spreading this message, having a start live stream, and then at the end, like, having a closing live stream. Especially, I think Malin does his closing live streams. His campaign is open for like, a month or 2 months or whatever, and then when it closes, it closes. I think he's the one who does that. So if you don't get it, you don't get it, which is cool in terms of collectability. It's a little tricky issue in terms of business sales, unless you're getting so much from that sales that it doesn't matter. And I presumably that's how it works. Where going in demand, I would guess that kind of changes the collectability aspect of it if there's a never decreasing product. So that is kind of interesting. Anyway, so I will say that is like there's but he said he's doing fine on the website. Like he says, like people go to the website and they just buy the comics. It's like, so that's amazing. This is Tim Lim, who is he has such a fantastic, did he side scroll? No. Such a fantastic style. So, that is a thought. Like, how hard is it to replace Indiegogo and Kickstarter? It doesn't seem to me like that would be a very, very difficult thing. So the difference in the concepts is you are crowdfunding the product, and it might even be before you have the completion of it would depend. And that's another issue with crowdfunding in comics is we've seen in Comicsgate is if you're making a comic, you want to have a limited, like a sell limit, like I forget what they call it in Indiegogo, where it's a fixed price, where if you don't get to this amount, the comic doesn't go forward, because it takes money to produce a comic, and if you don't have a few extra $1,000 in your bank account, you can come up short to pay stuff. You might need a new computer, new hard drives, new scanner, stuff like that. You're going to need a few $1,000 cushion. If you don't have that, you want to make sure that the bingo point, the go no go point for your crowdfund is what it takes plus a cushion. Like if it takes $30,000 to get this thing out the door, then you better set that, because you don't want to have a $27,000 campaign. You realize, like, oh, I don't have any money in the bank to pay for this. The margins are too tight. I don't want to get in a situation where, like, who's that guy? B. Clay Moore had what a tragic story Big Hawaiian Dick was. Beautiful art. Just stunning vibe of, who's that, like Charlie Chan Goes to Waikiki, old movies. Just this Hawaiian noir, which was a genre of fiction in movies and books back in the day, back in the black and white day. And it's still up on Kickstarter, and I think it only gets like $20,000 to $30,000 or something. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's over 5 years late. So he took the money and presumably drank it or put it up his nose, or not that I'm accusing him of doing that, but it's such a brutal story because you realize like, oh, so you're banned from Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and your name is Mud. Because if you go to Indiegogo, someone will report like, yeah, he has an unfulfilled campaign, Bitcoin Dick on Kickstarter. I'm like, okay, well, that looks like fraud to us because it's fraud. And, you know, if you're B. Claymore, I don't know, he's some kind of artist, right? You gotta just drive an Uber in the part time, do something to pay those people back, or more importantly, finish the project because it's gorgeously drawn. Anyway. My point is, you want to have a few extra $1,000 in the bank. So with the selling stuff on a website, is you already have the money up front. I mean, you already have the product finished; it's ready. It just ships out on demand. Where crowdfunding, and now there's a movement for a lot of people in crowdfunding who say like, listen, we've already have so much of it completed, and this is the completed work. It just needs to be, you know, it's like 70% completed or something. So we already put the money into it, and so you crowdfund that. Anyway, so that seems to me like the difference in the I guess this whole video should just be on this. Okay, so I did want to say with this Iconic Comics thing, so he's got a website set up, and it's a completed product going out the door. So instead, I mean, the thing is with having like everyone having their own website, is it's just as easy to go to one website and go, okay, well, here's the mail-in section. Here's Ethan. Here's Richard Meyer, Tim Lim, John Della Rose. You know, all these different sections of the website instead of just having one website, because then it's like, oh, you got to go from website to website, where it's like that's the power of just having one, which was the power of Indiegogo. But I mean, they're gatekeepers. They kept out Mike Miller, which, you know, it's like you have your own crowdfunding campaign. It's websites like that cannot be that expensive to build. Anyway, so I don't know if they're talking about that behind the scenes. And you know, some people like to be in charge of their own thing, but there is such an advantage to everything being on one page. Anyway, check out Iconic Comics on the Tim Lim stuff. What a great style he has. And Doug Ernst, I guess, is on this too with Soul Finder. I don't see it. The Soul Finder series, which kind of, I mean, it'd be cool. Like, who's the other guy? I'm thinking of the other guys of like having beginners to comics who had a stellar success would be who's that bald-headed guy? Oh God, I can't remember that guy's name. The Downcast guy, the Sweetcast Stoker, Clint Stoker. Yeah, he had a beginning campaign. It was like, I don't know what the first thing was, like $20,000, and then each campaign has improved. And the kind of the same thing with Soul Finders. Like they got these first campaigns out the door, and they were good, but you know, I'm keeping it 100s. Like they were beginning campaigns. They were good beginning campaigns, but they weren't like a top-notch. I hope they're not listening to this. A top-notch finished product like Myers Jawbreakers was. It was, you know, just amazing for his first project, but he had a lot more money behind him. He had 10 times the amount of funding that these guys had. But the thing with Stoker and Doug Ernst is, don't get me wrong, I have both of those books. They're solid projects, but you're supporting them because you want to support them, and you know that the projects after that are going to get better, and they have got a lot better to the point of like they're creating IPs, they're creating their own universes. So I like both those books, maybe because there's a religious angle to them. It's kind of maybe that's why like Stoker and Tim Lim and Doug Ernst. Then there's Doug Temple too, and Mike Miller have kind of the religious angle. So their stuff has a certain feel to it, like a certain, I don't know, wholesome feel to it. Not to sound too Pollyanna, but yeah, I mean, you got to read the stuff to know what I'm talking about. It's like, it's good, but it's also just not an empty, hollow shell like Savage Dragon, which was, I originally set out to talk about Savage Dragon. It's like, you read Savage Dragon, and it's like, this guy I feel dirty. I mean, not seriously, but like there's something lacking in his life. It just feels kind of empty and shallow. Like there's no there. Gertrude Stein said. Anyway, B. Claymore, man. What happened to you? Remember when what's-his-face confronted B. Claymore outside some restaurant? It's like, I want my $40 back. It's like, you supported B. Claymore in the first place? It was that Captain Cummings, who changed his name of his channel to the 10 Cent Story. And I like Captain Cummings. He's like, people kind of said, oh, he's kind of crazy. He's kind of crazy. Yes, but he's kind of crazy like a fox. I remember he was coming out saying a bunch of wild stuff, and I never discounted him. I just listened, and I thought about what he was saying. I thought, oh, I'm just going to think on this and see what happens. And as it turns out, yes, he is a little bit crazy, but who isn't? But he was also right about many things. Anyway, that got the video to the over the 10 minute and 10-second mark. Click the links. Check out Iconic Comics, all the dudes in Comicsgate. I will see you guys all next episode.